function too. And of course, John's not here, but we have Wayne here from the Democratic Party who's going to be filming the event for John, so that John gets to see exactly what's said and what the questions are. I think what I'll do is I'll start a little bit by giving you a little bit about my background, because some of you are new. I've traveled the district for over a year now, and I see a lot of new faces, which is great, because this gives me an opportunity to better introduce myself to you, and then we'll open it up for questions. A little bit about my background. I came from a small town in western Pennsylvania. My grandfather was a coal miner. My father was a railroad worker. My mother was a nurse. I tell people that within 50 miles of my home, there was no such thing as a Republican. I was a Democrat, born and raised. And again, those were great values. That blue-collar working family was great for me, and it was great for my background, great for my experience. I'll also tell you, my father lost his job when I was 8 years old. So when you look at my background, you can see that I had to sit around a kitchen table when my mother and dad had to try and make ends meet. And then I'll tell you a little further down the road, as I started my own business, how I had to start, and make ends meet. But I was the first one to graduate from college in my family, paid for my whole college education by working. I worked in a factory for a year. I worked on a county road crew for a year. And I drove a truck for 2 years, paid for my college education. Graduated with a degree in business administration. Went to work for a company called Canton International, which was a CPA firm. Got my CPA after 2.5 years, and then I was offered a job with one of my clients in Wadsworth, Ohio. Now it's interesting because a lot of people say to me, how'd you get to Wadsworth? And I was actually one of the youngest CPAs for Grant Thornton that had an opportunity to make partner. And had an opportunity out here come my way, and quite frankly, I tell everybody, my background always lent me to this. When you agree to something, even if you don't want to do it, once you agree to it, you got to do it. The story is that got a call from a guy in Wadsworth, Ohio, who said to me, we'd like you to come work for you. You know what, I loved Pittsburgh. I was working downtown 2.5 years. I was going to be the youngest CPA. Why would I come to Wadsworth, Ohio? So I told the gentleman that at that time, I needed to earn twice what I was making, and thinking that he would never agree to that. And interesting enough, I called him back, told him that, and he said, when can you start? And that's the first time that I've always said, you've got to, once you commit to something, you got to go along with it. So I had to decide to come to Wadsworth, Ohio. It was probably the best move I ever made. Now I will tell you, at that time I was engaged with my wife. I met her. She'll tell you in 6th grade, I don't remember much in 6th grade other than baseball, basketball, and sports. But dated her again in high school. And so I'm married now 27 years to that same girl that I met in 6th grade. And we have 3 children. They're all in college. Which I believe is, one thing that I've said all along, I would never want to miss those years of coaching baseball, basketball with the kids. But they're all in college now, so now I have this opportunity. Came up here, spent a year working in healthcare. And by the way, as a CPA, it was all healthcare. I became the healthcare expert for Grant Thornton. I became the expert on nursing homes, doctoral offices, and healthcare facilities throughout, not only Ohio and Pennsylvania, but even went down to Washington, D.C. for many years, looking at healthcare facilities down there, all related to Grant Thornton. When I got here, I took a job as a CFO for a healthcare company. They owned and operated nursing homes. I spent a year with them. I got their books in order. And at age 24, I decided, you know what, if my background told me that if you work hard and you believe in things, that anything's possible. And I stepped out one day and told my wife now, of a couple of years, that I was going to start my own business. With a couple $100 in the bank account, I went out and convinced the bank to lend me some money, and I bought my first nursing home. And I can tell you, for the next 18 to 20 years, I owned, operated, and constructed nursing homes to a point where in the early 2000s, I actually had 23 brand new facilities that I sold and got out of the industry. In 2000, I was also asked to do something else. My community, Wadsworth, which I had served as mayor. Well, prior to that, I had served as a fireman for almost 5 years. I was also on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I was also on the Planning Commission. So I've given back, because I always believe you have to give back. I gave back to my community. They came to me after I sold my business in 2000, and they said, look, a number of Republicans came to me. And you got to remember, I was a Democrat until the Ronald Reagan years. I became a Republican during the Ronald Reagan years. But they came to me and said, we would like you to run for office. Well, quite frankly, at that time, had no interest in running for office, but they asked me, would you be willing to give back one more time? So I did. I ran for president of the city council with one goal in mind. That's the balance of budget. It was bleeding, about $2 million worth of debt. And my goal was to get in, balance the budget, and get out. I won that election. I ran again and won another election. My job still wasn't done. That was only 4 years. I realized that the only way to really be able to balance the budget was to become mayor. I ran for mayor under the goal that I was going to rebalance the economics of the city of Wadsworth, and we're going to balance that budget. And I can tell you that after 8 years of president, council, and mayor, we balanced the budget, we left over the surplus, and I decided to get out of politics. Believe it or not, I said at that point in time, I never get back into politics. I now served my community for 18 years, and I thought it was up to other people to step up. I did one more thing, though, in the city of Wadsworth, and that is I was asked by a local attorney if I'd be interested in saving a car dealership. That car dealership was a Chevy dealership that had been around for 48 years, employed approximately 40 people, and there was a concern that if somebody didn't step up, the dealership was going to close. I did step up. I acquired the dealership. General Motors came in and said, you know what? We're going to help you get this dealership as quickly as possible. They did. I started running that dealership in 2007. I can tell you in the next 14 months, we had stabilized it, and we were employing close to 35 to 40 people at that time. And again, I thought we had done another job. We had done something to save jobs. But on May 1st, 2009, everybody knows that General Motors filed bankruptcy. Now remember, this is the same General Motors that came to me almost 14 months earlier and was happy that I was getting involved. 14 months later, I got one of those letters that said, we do not believe your dealership fits in the future plans of General Motors. I can tell you, I still was concerned at that time about what was going on in our government, but I was more concerned about those 40 employees, and they all knew it. And today, if I made a phone call to any of them, they'd probably be standing here right beside me, because I told them that day that we're going to fight to try and keep those jobs. We spent a year in arbitration, and I finally realized after a year that, again, sitting down with General Motors, that General Motors had told me point blank that this dealership was not meant to fit into the future plans of General Motors. It's a sad day. I always say May 1st, 2009 was the darkest day in American capitalism, because that's the day when the government can come in, and we all saw it, and decide who stays and who goes. And I happen to be part of that. Now it's interesting because our current congressman, there was a tipping point for me, because somebody told me there'll be something happen in your life that'll make you re-engage back into politics. And I didn't know what that was. I learned real quick, because what happened was I saw that the government could take my dealership. I saw that we were spending way too much money. I saw that we were passing bills to spending dollars, deficits were going up, and my biggest concern, though, at that point in time was those employees. And I said, we started to contact John Boccieri, and my dealership probably sent him 150 letters. And I don't know if you remember back then, but Mr. Boccieri did stand up. At one point in time during 2009, he stood up and said, I cannot support cap and trade, but he voted for it. One of the biggest job-killing taxes in this district, in this state. He also said at one point in time, and I'm going to stand behind car dealerships because they are the backbone of small-town America. And quite frankly, I got a message back to me from John Boccieri, not directly. It was through a friend of his, it was a business associate of mine, that said, you tell Jim, don't worry, we're going to do what we can. There was a bill went into Congress in 2009, July of 2009, and it went to the House of Representatives to reinstate all car dealerships. And I can tell you that I watched John Boccieri's vote very closely, and he voted against it. That next day, I made the decision that I was going to run against John Boccieri and remove him from a position that he doesn't deserve. And he doesn't deserve it for a number of reasons. He doesn't deserve it because he is basically voting lockstep with Nancy Pelosi 94% of the time. He's not representing us. He's representing Nancy Pelosi. He doesn't deserve it because he says one thing and votes another way. He did it on cap and trade. He did it on the car dealerships, and we all know he did it on health care too. Voted against it, and then voted for it. And he voted for it, even though the district, there was a poll out that week that said that the district did not agree and did not believe that we should pass health care. John Boccieri still stood up and voted for it. That July 15th date was the reason I decided to run. I can tell you since that point in time, I've stepped in this race and I've worked as hard as you can imagine from morning to night. I start at 7:30 in the morning, I end many times at 10:30 at night. It's all about the same thing, it's meeting people. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, I tell everybody, this isn't about parties. This isn't about being a Democrat. This isn't about being a Republican anymore. This is about being an American. All right, and I'm running as an American first. But I'm running as a Republican because I believe in four major things that the Republican Party believes in. I believe we need less government interference. I believe we need less taxes. I believe we need to bring personal responsibility back. And I believe in a strong military. And those are the four basic premises that I'm running for in this seat. So I've been doing this for a year, and again, August 23rd, 2009, I stepped in this race. Not too many people in this room probably even knew who Jim Renacci was. And I've told that story since then because now, a year later, I not only have the support of the national party, the local party, but I also have the support of a lot of grassroots people and a lot of individuals. If you go to my website, you'll see over 150 different endorsements from different conservative groups. And so I'm pretty proud of that. But I'm not finishing. And I tell everybody, we're in the fourth quarter now, and I'm always a big football analogy person. We're in the fourth quarter now, and even though you've probably seen some polls that says Jim Renacci's up, I never look at the scoreboard. And quite frankly, I never look at the time clock, and I'm not looking at the score. Because we're going to go all the way down in the next 56 days. We're going to work real hard for people to get the message out and hear my message. And then on November 2nd, you're going to be able to make a decision, and actually sooner than that because we have early voting in Ohio. But clearly on November 2nd, you're going to be able to make a decision as to who represents you in this district. And you're going to be able to remove Nancy Pelosi as your representative. And that's my goal that started almost a year ago.